Can you hear us? Oh, good. Good, good.
I can.
Hi, everybody. It's Lizzie. Can you hear me?
Lizzie.
I can't see me. What do I do for that?
Video.
Share screen. All right.
See, you have shared your screen with us.
I don't think I meant to do that. What do I do?
So at the top of your screen, there should say like a stop, like a red stop sharing screen.
Stop share. Yeah. All right. Done.
There. Leslie, we can't hear you. I can see you're talking, but I wasn't sure if you were talking to us. We can't hear you.
Here you go. Ta-da! Sorry, I hadn't unmuted myself. All right, let's go ahead and get I forgot I had to use Chrome, so let me grab the city's website again and get onto the agenda. I've got the agenda in front of me, but I want to. Let me see how I can get back into that. Why don't we go ahead and get started? I don't need it. I'll look for it while we're going over the committee report. So welcome to everyone to our final Meridian Arts Commission meeting of the year. So I normally bring pumpkin loaves to this. Don't cry, because they didn't turn out that well this year anyway. So calling the meeting to order, we will start by reading the mission of the Meridian Arts Commission. It's to develop, enhance, advance, and nurture all facets of the arts to enhance the quality of life for Meridian residents and its visitors. With that in mind, we will begin. Who do we have that's in person? Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for us today. We will do a roll call. Lizzie Taylor.
I'm here.
Jessica is here. Natalie.
Here.
Bonnie.
Here.
Leslie, I'm here. Maria Tsompa could not join us today. Jennifer Cavanis-Williams.
Here.
There you are. Tom Vanucci.
Here.
Ray Ordell.
Here.
Is it Wardle or Wardell?
It's Wordle.
Wardle. Thank you. Thank you. And Joe Borton, our executive, was not able to be here with us today. But we do have a quorum and we're ready to roll. Thank you, Audrey, for getting us all the materials beforehand. With that in mind, we did have the meeting minutes from our last November 12th meeting included in the packet. If there's nothing to be brought out for clarification, we would consider a motion. Oh, we need to adopt the agenda first. I'm sorry. Adopt the agenda. Audrey, do you have any changes? I have nothing. So that said, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move that we adopt the agenda as written.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? I'm sorry, I have to wait for that. I forget to wait. Good. All right. Now we're moving on to the approval of the minutes. I stated before it was included in our agenda packet. If there's nothing to be brought up for clarification, we would consider a motion.
I move that
I move that
we
we accept
from the
minutes.
November 12th meeting.
We will consider that a second and a first from Jessica and a second from Bonnie, since it's hard to kind of hear them both. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? All right, great. We have a new business action, a couple of new things on the business action items. Approval of the monthly financial statement, which was in our minutes. Audrey, is there anything, could you take us through that a little bit? And I'm going to get the packet back up.
Madam Chair, there has not been any changes to our financial statement this month, so we have no update.
Okay, great. Pretty straightforward. Are there any questions from commissioners? And if not, we would consider a motion.
Madam Chair, this is Tom. I move that we accept the budget as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tom. All right, so we have the second business item is approval of the expense replacement of the traffic box. That was considered by Ian Larson, sponsored by Ian Larson, and there's a picture of that traffic box included in our packet. Audrey, could you bring us up to date on that?
Yes, Madam Chair. So any commissioners who, there might be some commissioners who might remember last November, almost exactly a little over a year ago in 2019, Ian Lawson is a Meridian resident who sponsored a traffic box wrap done with the artwork from his mother. And so he sponsored this box and it was wrapped all last year. However, that box was removed, later this summer or early this fall, we're not sure exactly when, due to unforeseen construction. And so he emailed me about it and asked about it. And so legally, we're not obligated to replace the box. However, I do feel that it is a good faith move, a nice thing for us to do to replace the traffic box with our own funding. We do have the funding to do that. The total cost would be about $524.
Okay, I agree that this will be a good faith move to, especially when we're doing, we have the combination of the public-private interest in some of these traffic boxes. I really think that's a good thing to work well with those community members that have been willing to come on that journey with us of making Meridian look more beautiful by adding thematically relevant and sometimes community connected artwork around the city. I think that's a good price too for a replacement. I would agree with this.
Madam Chair, this is Tom. For those of us who are more new to the commission, was this is this in memoriam to his mom? Is his artwork, was this something, how did we get to him sponsoring, just as a point of history for me, point of reference?
Audrey, can you?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, so anyone can sponsor a box at any time. That's something that we freely offer. So he reached out and wanted to sponsor a box. Specifically, he wanted to sponsor a box with his mother's artwork. And he just wanted to see his mother's artwork on a box. And in order to make that happen, he knew he would sponsor the box. So that's what he did. And it was very special to him and his family.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I could add to that.
Yes, please.
I think the piece that he wanted to sponsor was on our traffic box repository. So it was already a piece that was available for placing on a traffic box. And he originally wanted to have it placed, I think, near the corner of Main and Cherry.
Main and Fairview.
Main and Fairview.
Fairview.
And we already had a traffic box there that wasn't ready for replacement. So we offered this location as another option. We thought it fit well because there's actually the art is of a great blue heron, and the neighborhood nearby or the street just north of that has the name heron in it, or blue heron or something like that. So it fit well with the location. So he was amenable to that. We had offered him to either choose another box or to wait until his selected location was available, and he opted to go for another location.
Okay, thank you for reminding us of that history. I remember now the discussion about the relevance of the name, and it's a beautiful box. His artwork is gorgeous. His mother's work is really beautiful. Thank you for bringing us up to date on that. And I'd like to note for the record that Joe Borton has been able to join us today. So, hi, Joe. Hi, thanks for being here.
You bet.
So with that said, are there any more questions on this action item? And if not, we would consider to approve that expense of $524 to replace this traffic box, this sponsored traffic box by Ian Larson. Seeing no further questions, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move we approve the request to replace it, the traffic box by Ian Lawson. I think it'll be good. Sorry, that was my dog.
And that's second by her dog. Sorry, second by Bonnie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for all your work on that, Jessica and Audrey. So moving on to designating the funds. This is an exciting. I'm just going to let Audrey tell us what's happened. This is a really cool thing.
Madam Chair, so, and Commissioners, to let you know, we have been awarded a grant through the Idaho Commission on the Arts through the CARES Act. This is specifically for CARES Act funding for the arts, distributed through the Idaho Commission on the Arts. So last month, I came across this quite suddenly on the day of the deadline, so I quickly applied for it, and we were originally awarded $750, but they had additional funds, so now we have been awarded $1,080.
Wow.
Originally, when I applied for funding for our mural series. However, I don't think that's going to work out anymore. In my mind was that we would do an additional mural, a fourth mural, at a specific spot that has been considered in the past on City Hall property. However, in researching that more, it's not going to be a spot that's available to us. So that's not going to work out. So my second suggestion is that we reallocate this to the traffic box series for this year, which will fit really well. This funding is to pay artists for their work, which is what we do in the traffic box series. So that is my suggestion, and then it's open for the commission to discuss.
I'd like to open up by saying thank you, Audrey, for being aware of that, for so quickly getting the application in. And I know that the extra, it's from the CARES that was a $750. Do we have any idea where the private matching or additional funding came from? Because I noticed it was a private. Do we have anyone?
Madam Chair, I don't
there?
know. I don't know where that additional funding came from. I just learned that we got more funding in the awards letter, which I have attached. So
Yeah.
that's all the information I have about that extra bonus funding that we got.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank the Idaho Commission on the Arts and for their distribution of this CARES Act funding that came from there's a federal program. Thank you for that. And I'd also like to thank the private funding that I know that we don't, it's remained anonymous, but I'd like to say thank you to whoever made those extra funds available. And I think it's a great idea to, I think the murals have had a lot of impact visually on the community. I think that's a great way to use it. I think that's a good idea, Audrey. Does anyone else have any suggestions or comments? Jessica?
Madam Chair, as much as I would love to hog more funding for public art, selfishly, I'm wondering if there is any sort of outreach activities or performances. I know those things are harder during the pandemic, but we haven't had an opportunity to do much in the way of performances. And, I don't know what the Outreach and Events Committee has been planning, but I wonder if there's something that they have in mind that we could use some of this funding for.
We've been talking about in the events and outreach, and I'm jumping a little bit forward, but I'll just give an encapsulation of this about it being a development year, because we can't do any live performance right now. So we're taking the time to develop things for next year. And we have talked about the costuming for the carolers. I don't know if that would be something that, because I believe that this CARES Act is more for public visual art, as I'm understanding it. Is that?
Madam Chair, I don't know how specific the grant gets. I talked to Stuart from the Idaho Commission on the Arts, and the information I received from him is that we pay artists, and that term can be really broad. It can be visual artists, but I believe it also could be open to performing artists, like Jessica suggested. this CARES Act funding is to support the arts. So I believe that also includes musical and performing arts.
Hey, Jessica, and thank you for your generosity, being the chair of the Public Art Subcommittee. Thank you for your generosity and thought on that. Actually, with the costumes that we've talked about, they're going to be the colors of the city of Meridian. So in a way, they would be a visual art project. I'm wondering if that might be a consideration for a way to find the money to start building that direction, or using it as part of our development that will support the performing arts as soon as they become producible. I don't know how else to put that. I would say that using these as part of our development for that purpose might be a good way to use it, since it's a surprise. You found it and it's something above our regular budget. Bonnie, were you going to chime in?
No, I think there was just some background noise that maybe.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Your yellow box popped up and I thought, oh, Tom. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For consideration and discussion, I appreciate Jessica getting us to get outside of our creative box. Perhaps we could craft a message, a virtual message that could be sent to all Meridian residents via email. Virtual choirs are wickedly huge right now and massively productive, and they're having a really powerful effect. And I'm wondering if the funds, we could consider using the funds for not only someone to arrange a piece of music for us, and then we would go to different entities in the city, ask them to sing it, and then we put together our virtual choir. The funds could be allocated for, albeit it's still artistic, I would think. It could be interpreted as artistic for the editor to put this together, perhaps the arranger for the piece of music, and or the musicians that we would craft a track that then everybody would sing to. And if we found the correct piece of music that we could then launch after the holidays, I'm not suggesting this as a holiday message, but there would not be enough time. But after the holidays, to your point, Madam Chair, about like this is our development year, but we want to remind our community that we haven't gone away. And so is there a message of recognition, of hope? We are building, we are developing within a piece of music that then the community.
I love that idea.
I do too.
And there are multiple samples of the virtual choirs out there now. Some are just brilliantly conceived and executed and composed. And I would think, I should say, I haven't seen one from a city perspective, to the best of my knowledge. That I'm sure they're out there, but to the best of my knowledge, I don't know if a city has crafted one as a message to its residents.
Madam Chair,
yes,
Chairman, are you familiar with the email that went out from the Chamber of Commerce?
No, could you share it with us? The content.
They were putting together a virtual choir very similar to that, I think, where you can go and learn the part and then videotape yourself, send your video in, and they're going to put them all together. Is that what you were thinking of, Tom?
Very much so. And thank you. I was not aware that the concept is out there, but yes, very much so.
So they're doing it for Christmas, but I really still like the idea of doing it afterwards also.
Yes, and do you know, Jennifer, do you know if they're using an original composition or how where's this?
I do not believe they are. The email sends you to a YouTube where you are supposed to learn the part and then you're supposed to sing it. And they have directions for how to do your audio so that you can record yourself.
Yeah, that, who's doing I love this idea. We'd also talked about the idea of a Meridian song competition at one point in time. Do you remember that, where we would have submissions come in from different people that would, and then the only thing about that is that then we would need to choose one. And so, yeah, I'm sure one would be wonderful, or a few would be wonderful, or hopefully everyone would be wonderful. And then we'd have, it's a good problem to have when you can't decide which one to choose. But would that be kind of in line, or maybe we should think about the composition as separate from this? But I love this idea, and especially if the chamber's going to do one at Christmas time, then having us follow up with a more general message, in maybe March or April, as we're kind of getting to the point where we might be able to start doing things, well, we just can't predict. I'm not even going to say that. But maybe, March or April is kind of a goal when people are still in this. We would have to probably hire someone to edit it together. That would be something we'd need to, because I've done some of that work with memorial services and concerts that had to be done virtually, and the intonation, and it's a sound editor's job. It really is. So that would be a matter of mixing and tuning. And but I love this idea. I'm a musician. I have a conflict of interest. But I love this idea. And I love also the fact that we're talking about addressing visibility. We're talking about addressing not only visibility of the arts, but visibility of the commission as an entity that's here to work for the city of Meridian. And so I just love this, and it engages the community. We need to decide. We could even reach out to school choirs, choir directors, and include the students, because they have a controlled environment where they could maybe sing some of the parts and have it be a little bit more cohesive that way, and have more inclusion that way, and also give us a sound foundation for the mixer to go with, and then add other individuals in amongst the solid foundation of an ensemble that's singing with a conductor. Yes.
Madam Chair,
Who's speaking?
hi. Would $1,080 be enough for this project if we're talking about hiring a director to direct the choir virtually, and also a mixer to edit the video? I love this idea, but I'm worried that $1,080 won't cover those fees and those professional services.
When I said conductor, I meant a school conductor. That would just be only one submission. And I don't know how many schools are in session, or if they'll be singing together again by that time. But what I meant by that is that we would have, say for instance, we had 50 people from the community that decided to join it, each one individual singing to a YouTube track. There's a lot of intonation and things that we need to work with. But if we have a choir or a couple of school choirs that have the advantage of having a director in front of them to keep a foundational shape to the music, then it would be, we wouldn't have to hire a conductor or director. That would already be implied by one of those foundational musical environments. To that, a sound editor could mix other people in using that foundation. So the sound editor would be the conductor in this case. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it would just be a sound editor that we would.
Madam Chair, I again love this idea. I guess when I say hire a director, I mean hire someone to really organize this, because this is outside of, I think, my capabilities of organizing this and collecting all the information for this and making sure that everyone's on the same page. And so I would want to see if there were professionals who could do that for us. And that's where I was starting to wonder if this would be enough, if this was too big of a project for our funds. But as someone in the music industry, you might know better than I.
I can do this. This is within my professional field. And I think if we take it under the hat of the events and outreach, I can do the musical things that need to be done. And then just hand it to the sound editor. And I can be there to listen and kind of make suggestions. As I'll just direct the project from a musical standpoint and then help as a director. I'll offer to do that because this is just a really cool project. And, you know, I don't have any live performances coming up, so I got a little bit of time. So yeah, that's in my field. So I would take that on.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, this is Emily.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Thank you. I think that we need to double check with the Idaho Commission on the Arts to make sure that this is within the parameters of the grant. They were really flexible in letting us move from one visual art project to another, but I think we need to make sure that this will still be eligible for the grant funds because this is really a completely different and new project. Whereas the other things were kind of off the shelf, ready to go, and pretty well defined. So if this is going in a completely different direction, we do need to make sure the grant funds can be used for this at all.
Emily, thank you. Audrey, so let's kind of shelve this discussion. Oh, well, why don't we do this? Why? Because this would be something that we would need to start quite quickly on the subcommittee because to get it done by March or April, you know, we'd have some things to do. So why don't we, how would this sound as to move things more quickly forward? Jessica's idea about moving into the visual arts, that encapsulates what you were talking about, because this would be a performance project, but it would also be a virtual project. So it would be repeatable. It wouldn't be like a live performance that would be a one-off. It would be something that we could continue to use. So that's good. And to me, that makes it more closely related to visual art than a live performance would be, because it would be visual. It would just be digitally visual. And so why don't we take that with that perspective? Audrey, if you could contact Stuart Weiser with the commission, the Idaho Commission, find out if with that explanation of how it would be virtually visual art mixed with performance, but not live performance, if that would be doable for this grant funding. And if not, we could, if there's no other discussion to be had on any other projects to be brought forth, we could consider that if that doesn't happen, we move it back to the traffic box art for simplicity and to make sure that we just move forward and don't get caught on it. Does that make sense? Okay, can we make a provisional motion? Can we make a motion with those provisions in it? So if we get the go-ahead from the Idaho Commission on the Arts, we can move before our next monthly meeting. Could someone form a motion for me that would work for that? Emily, can you help me out there?
So the motion would be, I move that we authorize Audrey to speak with ICA about repurposing the grant funds to the singing project. And if the answer is no, we would apply the grant funds to the traffic box art.
Thank you, Emily, thank you. So that is the motion. If there's nothing else to be brought up for discussion, someone can just use that motion by saying so moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
That was either Jessica or Natalie.
I think we said it at the same time.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam
Thank you.
Chair, as
Yes.
just point of information, Jennifer, is it possible you could share any? I'm not familiar with the. Thank you. Yeah, if you could share that, because I'd be intrigued of any obstacles that. By the way, this statement is based on if we're allowed to move forward with this concept. I'd be intrigued how they got through some of the obstacles that we all know live in the world of music and putting music on YouTube and sharing music out there. So it'd be interesting to know how the chamber worked their way through those obstacles. So thank you.
I can forward the email that I got.
That would be great. Thank you, Jennifer. Could you forward that? Just copy all the commissioners. That would be great. And that way we can use some of the work that they've done to keep us on the straight and narrow and keep us moving forward. Thank you, Tom.
Madam Chair,
Madam
if you
Chair.
go to the Meridian Chamber of Commerce website, there's information right on the website.
Oh, okay, great.
It's called the Meridian Community Choir.
Thank you, Meridian Community Choir. I like the name. I really like that name. Thank you. All right, so we've got, thanks again, Audrey, for getting us that extra money to put towards the arts, and we will find a good use for it. So moving on to the reports from the subcommittees. We're starting with Initial Point Gallery.
Well, the pandemic has sort of called a halt to our gallery shows. We hung the Pastel Society of the West Coast Regional show the end of October, and then City Hall was virtually closed to visitors by the middle of the month. So that show just come down, and the next show that was to go up was the My Artpreneur project from the Idaho Arts Commission. And because of the status with the pandemic, we have not hung any of that show. And it, in fact, I think it's going to end up being canceled because they have another show on the eastern side of the state to take work to the end of January. So, and since a lot of that work was coming from the Idaho Falls area, they decided that they did not want to try to put up a show for hardly anyone to be able to see. So, we're on a wait and watch. So that show would have actually been through the end of January. So hopefully by February, we'll be able to have a show once again in the gallery. And Audrey has put together a nice brochure that we'll be able to use to give to prospective artists. Just talks a little bit about the gallery and showing their work, showing your work at Initial Point. And I think you were just going to add a couple of photos to that, right? Or verbiage to the brochure, right, Audrey? And then we'll be ready to look at that as a subcommittee again and get that out to everybody. And that's about it.
Awesome, thank you. Boy, we just keep, it's all just fires around our feet in the arts world right now. So thanks for keeping track of that and for keeping in touch with the artists during this time, Bonnie.
Mm-hmm.
Really, thank you. And we'll get our feet underneath us at some point. But in the meantime, keeping these relationships going with the artists that are displaying or that are needing to cancel is really important. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything to ask about that report or to add? If not, we will move on to the next item, which is the Events and Outreach Subcommittee. And since Maria is not here today, Audrey, do you want to take us through that?
Yes, Madam Chair. The Events and Outreach Subcommittee are meeting immediately after this meeting at 5 o'clock. In our last meeting, the subcommittee brainstormed different ideas that we can contribute to other city events. We already have Concerts on Broadway and Art Week. However, we want to be more involved with other city events put on by the city through the Parks and Rec department. So the subcommittee brainstormed ideas that we can contribute, small things that we can do for different events. For example, sponsoring face painting during the 4th of July, doing a pumpkin carving contest at Trunk or Treat, or doing a barbershop quartet during 4th of July, an art walk during Unplug and Be Outside, those kind of things. These are things that we can contribute and implement into already existing city events as a way to get the Arts Commission's name out there, as a way to inexpensively become more involved with the city. And at our meeting this evening, Renee White is going to join our subcommittee meeting and give us feedback on our ideas, which are the most beneficial and which are the most plausible. So that will give us a good look into 2021, if all goes well and we're able to have some gatherings.
Oh, thank you, Audrey. And I know we also touched on a creative direction towards all of the events that make them seem more cohesive and consistent. And so I'm sure Renee will be able to give us some good ideas on following up on that conversation. Because that way the city has a look and feel, you know, which is what we as artists can add, I think, as our Arts Commission and Parks and Rec working together can add that feeling of identity, community identity and consistency. So that's what we're talking about, because once again, we're in a development year because we can't put on live events. So thank you. Does anybody else from the committee have anything to add or any questions? If not, we will move on then finally to the Public Art Committee's report. Jessica.
Well, we are decidedly not in a development stage. We are so busy right now. I want to thank everyone on the Public Art Subcommittee for showing up every month and thinking of great ideas and contributing and hanging in there during our long meetings. This is the most active that I've seen the Public Art Subcommittee since I've been on the commission over the past 3 years, and everyone is doing a really great job. So thank you to Tom and Natalie, and Bonnie joined us last week. Thank you, Bonnie, and welcome to Rhea as well. So we discussed a number of things at our meeting in November. The first one was regarding our public art plan. So we're still trying to move forward with that. And we decided, Tom has very generously offered to donate his services as a facilitator. And we are going to have a session where Tom facilitates and helps us initiate the process for identifying what's going to be in our public art plan and how we're going to arrange it, and kind of like what we did a couple of years ago for our strategic plan. So Tom kind of took us through his thought process for that, and I'm excited to see where we end up with that. I think it'll be really great. So we're going to start taking some official steps in January, and we will keep the commission apprised of our progress with that. The next thing we discussed, so this is something that I shared with the commission. It wasn't an action item, but just something to share. I know in our last full MAC meeting, we talked about that sort of art festival in Colorado that was sort of an art and outdoors festival. And it reminded me of something that folks are doing in Wisconsin called the Farm Art Detour. And they work with local farmers to have sort of a farm tour, and folks can drive around to different farms and look at different art installations, and also speak with the farmers about what they're doing on their land. So we talked about possibly doing something kind of similar here, maybe in partnership with Dairy Days, or maybe in partnership with the Eagle Plein Air Festival, just looking at different ways that we can sort of help connect the visual arts and maybe even the performing arts with Meridian's heritage and our landscape and things like that. So that's something that I don't think we're going to work on for this year because we have plenty on our plates already. But we may be working with the Events and Outreach Committee at some point in the future to put on something like that. So stay tuned. And
Sounds fun.
Audrey, I don't know if you shared or if you can share maybe in a future meeting or something, the information that we shared regarding the original event that happens, the Farm Art Detour, if you want to share that with the whole commission. Yeah. If that's possible. The next thing we discussed was our 2021 public art project. So we get funding every year through the Meridian Art and Public Spaces Ordinance. We receive $50,000 a year, which can be rolled over. So we can kind of collect money for a couple of years to save up for a bigger project. And we had a number of options, and the one that we selected is the 10-mile trailhead. So there's some road construction happening at the corner of 10 Mile and Ustick, and the trails folks, I think, or pathways folks are putting in a cool trailhead there where people can park and walk on the trail. There's a pathway there, or ride their bikes, or it's going to be a neat looking thing. And we're going to work with the pathways folks to have an art installation there in that location. So that'll be visible. We're hoping maybe for some functional art, that either a bench or a shade structure or a bike rack or something like that. That's both artistic and functional. So I think we're going to be talking with them as well about what our options are in January. I think that was it. We also discussed the grant that Audrey put in for with Idaho Commission on the Arts. So that's something we already covered, and I think that's it.
Great, thank you, Jessica. You guys are busy. A lot, thank you. Thank you, and Tom, thank you for stepping up to being willing to facilitate that meeting. That will really be helpful. Thank you for offering. All right, any more questions about public art? And if not, we'll move to the last agenda item, which is a report on the diversity subcommittee.
Oh, Madam Chair, just one more thing.
Yes.
I missed
Jessica.
Lizzie when I was thinking our public art committee folks. So thank you, Lizzie, as well.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Lizzie. I'm glad you're able to join us today.
Finally.
Yeah, glad you're feeling better. So this, as you all recall, we did have a discussion on adding a temporary subcommittee, which Bonnie brought up as using the word, thinking of it as a task force. But for the sake of discussion, we're going to call a subcommittee, but it will be a temporary subcommittee that would come up with a plan for encouraging diversity, both by coming up with verbiage for our strategic plan, as well as a plan for how this looks for the city of Meridian to lead as our Arts Commission in creating a diverse public sector and look for the city of Meridian. So I loved that every single commissioner is deeply invested and interested and wanted to be involved. We, of course, as a subcommittee if it's a subcommittee, we cannot have a quorum. So Bonnie and I spoke and crafted the idea, thank you, Bonnie, that it would be very helpful since there's so much investment and people really want to be connected to this process, that if we have, as the subcommittee, we have on the committee would be the chairs of each of the other subcommittees. And then we would have, Tom Vanucci has kindly offered to chair this committee. So what that does is it facilitates the diversity subcommittee meeting will meet. Then each we can have on the other subcommittees' agendas an update on the diversity subcommittee that's given by the chairs that are going to be present. So that allows everyone to stay in the loop throughout the process and to have input, because this is very important. And it will be smoother if we have it run through a subcommittee, but then we will have a first person update at each of the other subcommittees from the chair of that committee on each of their meetings. So it will be all inclusive and still keep it to the subcommittee level. I really appreciate that the chairs are willing to take this on, because I know everyone is busy, and I especially, raise a roof for Tom, because now that I just heard what you're going to do for the public art, it makes it even more significant that you're also willing to chair this subcommittee. Thank you. And that we don't need to take action on it or anything. I just appreciate that in this way, we're going to be able to get input from everyone throughout the process, which I think is really important. So thanks to all the chairs and to Tom as the new chair of that subcommittee. And are there any questions regarding? All right, good. They'll be putting together their first meeting. So probably by our next subcommittee meetings, or, well, not ours, because our events and outreach is right after this, but we'll start getting those reports. So thank you. And Audrey, thank you once again for preparing everything, getting it to us. I'm really loving that we have the minutes from the subcommittee meetings included in the packet. That just really makes it easier to keep informed. Thanks to everyone. And if there's nothing else, we will consider a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is January 14th. So happy holidays, everyone. Yeah.
Madam Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Jennifer. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Have a wonderful holiday season, you guys. Be safe.
Thank you.